Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Katherine Irving, Director of Programming for the Boston Women's Film Festival, and I'm joined today by Ke-Xi, the star and screenwriter of Nina Wu. Nina Wu is a brilliant psycho thriller out of Taiwan about abuse in the film industry. All of us at the festival were completely blown away by it, so we're so grateful to you, Ke-Xi, for taking the time to talk to us more about it. How are you doing?
Hi, everyone. I'm good. Yeah, nice to meet you here. I'm Ke-Xi. Yeah.
I imagine it's been a busy year. Are you enjoying the success of the film?
Yeah, it was okay.
Kind of intense.
Yeah, well, this family now was supposed to actually, I plan to go to the United States this March because
Okay.
and then the film was about it was going to screen in the US,
Yeah.
but because of COVID-19, it canceled. But probably we will rescreen again next year March. Yeah, so
Okay.
hopefully I can go and meet you guys in
Yeah.
person.
I mean, I hope the film does get a wider release. I know that so many films were affected by
Mm.
COVID, and I think the fact that it hasn't yet had a big theatrical release might have been why we were able to get it for the festival. So I'm grateful, but I do hope that lots and lots of people get to see it.
Thank
Um,
you.
so I'd like to start by asking you about the origins of the film and just where the idea came from. Was there a particular experience or event that sparked you to want to tell this story?
Okay. Well, I think the whole idea came from, I wrote a script about an extra who was struggling, in this film industry
Hmm.
back in 2016. And I was actually inspired by perhaps, Greta Gerwig, this kind of actress, because I was thinking after watching Frances Ha, in 2012, I was thinking, oh, an actress can write, so can I maybe write something like that?
Yeah.
So I started to, collect my own diaries and stories, and so I wrote a story about an extra's story, which is my story, because before, becoming a real actress, I actually started from doing extras on set, really,
Hmm.
playing date buddies or, walking around. So I got a lot of miserable stories. Well, okay, and then so I put it aside after I wrote the script because I didn't have much confidence. But it's interesting that back in 2017, because the Harvey Weinstein Me Too movement, I was so curious about what happened, in each hotel rooms for each girl's story. And so I read each articles in Screen Daily, Variety, and I started to watch documentaries about those women's stories. And somehow, at one point, I just think of an idea of a woman who was, being traumatized, and then started to have delusions of, who cannot tell which is real, which is surreal. And actually, it was also my experience because I was, insulted on set for maybe 1 or 2 times for my bad experience while I was as a new actor. Yeah,
Can
but
you
it
tell
was
us more about that?
I was a new actor for a commercial. I was being casted. Well, because I just asked a question to the cinematographer, and then the director and the cinematographer asked the main actor to slap me in the face with banknotes. This was not written in the script,
Hmm.
and it was like a humiliation thing.
Yeah.
So I got nightmares after the shooting, and for at least 2 weeks, and then I kept having these directors, face in my imagination, and also his voices would, repeat and repeat again while I was working at home. That's how the scene came from. When Nina was working at home, cooking or opening the refrigerator, somehow I would be drawn into the set the day when I was being humiliated again and again. I don't know why.
Yeah.
actually, I don't know what happened to me until I, read about the Me Too movement, because in some articles, they also, educated us that, okay, so these kind of symptoms are PTSD.
Well, and
So
sorry, go
I
on.
actually, what?
Sorry, go on. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, okay, so I had that symptom, but I was lucky because after maybe 1 month, I was recovered. But I read those women's story, some actresses kill themselves, right? And then some actresses, they have to, see the psychiatrist for 15 years. And maybe they are not, or some cases, they are not actresses, they are interns, right? They are like normal women. And so I just have used this my own experience and combine their stories, have this concept of a woman, kept inside these nightmares, couldn't get out, and then couldn't tell which is real, which is surreal from that day. That's this whole idea came from.
It comes through really, really beautifully. I mean, I think that this film portrays how suffering doesn't end with abuse, it starts with abuse, right? And like you said, some actresses are dealing with and anyone who's a victim of abuse is dealing with PTSD often for years and years afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
um, so I'm curious to know, the director of this film is Medizi, who
Mm-hmm.
you've worked with for the better part of a decade, is that right? About
For a lot of films.
Okay. But typically your relationship is you are the actor and he's the director, and this was a little bit of a change because you worked together on the script, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Can
Yeah.
you tell us a little bit more about that collaboration and the process of writing and shooting?
Yeah. After the Me Too movement, I quickly rewrote the extra script to become Nina Wu within only 2 weeks. Was a very quick writing because I
Wow.
was, so very emotional.
Yeah.
And after that, I emailed to Medizi just to, check if this script were how is this script, and then he loved it, and then he say it's something he has never seen before, and then from a woman's perspective, especially in film industry, because in history, most of the films, were from male's perspective, right, on set. Yeah. And so he started to ask me a lot of things, he doesn't know about, which is interesting because something like, okay, as a man, he doesn't know what we do in spa rooms. And then, yeah, something like maybe a male screenwriter, he doesn't know, and then he cannot write these kind of like details.
Yeah.
And then after a lot of discussions, and then he gave me a lot of suggestions, and then I started to rewrite several drafts. And one thing which is interesting that, while I was rewriting a different draft, I saw Ellen Page, her coming out of classic speech on the internet.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I felt she's very brave, and then I've never thought about, yeah, we do have this kind of women in film industry. And so I think it's a very interesting character. And also I like Boys Don't Cry, this film, a lot. So just one thought, I changed Nina's sexual orientation because the previous draft, she is a straight, and then now she became lesbian because of that. And yeah, after I rewrote the script, I gave it to Midi, and then, we back and forth, and then he revised the second draft, the last draft for the shooting. So it goes pretty smooth.
Yeah, I mean, I have so much to say about it, but I want to hear more from you. So let's talk about Nina and the character of Nina. She is a really serious person, I think, like a really driven person, and also someone who seems to have a strong sense of responsibility for her friends and her family. Is she you? Do you share a lot of the same character traits or background with her?
I think so. I think the reason why I can write so quickly because I have so many stories, you know,
Mm,
within my career, and I know so many producers, I know so many directors, I know so many agents, and so it's easy for me to dig my stories. And but I would say now is half based on my real experiences, and half fictional.
mm.
But almost each scene has one of my stories, but I would change some parts or change, you know, something to, yeah. So yeah.
Can
Mhm.
you tell us an example of a part that was directly from your life?
Oh yeah, I was almost I was almost got killed on the set shooting. You know, the scene when Nina was walking by on the road,
Yeah,
she lied down and
yeah.
waiting for cars to, you know, crush on her body. That was a scene, that was a short I shot long time ago when I was a newer. I really, because it's a low budget short film, so we don't have money to go to the studio or to build a set. We really waiting for the lights to turn red, and then I just walk the street and then lie down in the middle of the road and wait for the shooting. And then somehow the director got a shot, and then the whole team were so excited. And then the assistant forgot to tell me to get up.
Oh my God.
And they
That's
were, you know, oh yeah, that's it. You know, we're so happy to wrap up today. Yeah, we got a shot. Oh, amazing. It's so hard. This thing is so hard. And then I was lying on the road, and I
wow.
didn't hear the cut.
Jeez. So this brings me to another question, I guess. I mean, pretty quickly, as soon as Nina starts shooting in the film, you realize that she doesn't have any allies. She has no one she can trust. So her agent, who should be someone who cares about her, is giving her advice without any regard for whether this role is going to make her uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
The director and the producer, of course, are awful. The assistant director, who's a woman, and you would hope that she would be, you know, a friend to Nina, it seems really indifferent. So did you early in your career have a hard time finding people you could trust?
Uh, I would say when we are freshmen in each industry, probably, you know, it's really harder for us to, for people, you know, on the bottom of this whole uh, system, right? This company. So I would say when I was when I want to, you know, be an actor, it's really kind of hard for me because people don't believe in you, and you don't have the power. You don't have fame, and then yeah. So I would say it's harder, but now things are better for me because, you know, I have some works, and then yeah. So I really want the situation to be changed for, you know, in every aspect of the different kinds of like industries, to respect people more.
Yeah. I think this film is bringing some of that to light. Um, how did you prepare for this role? Was it really sort of taxing and challenging to play someone who was experiencing PTSD?
Uh, it's I think it's challenging for me to try to find another Nina that is not me. Otherwise, it won't be fun for me to play.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also while I was writing, I didn't have space to think about, oh, this can be made into a film. Oh, I definitely can play the lead role. So I didn't think about that much. So I wrote, for example, you know, the underwater shooting scene, and then Nina was very scared about, you know, go on the underwater scene, but because in reality, I'm really scared of diving.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm so afraid of, I might die in the sea because I really can't dive. I had one experience, another shooting experience asked me to dive and I almost died in the water. So that's why I know the feeling of people who are afraid of seas or, dive. That's why I can roll scenes like this. But now I have to do this again. So
Mm.
that's really like challenging. Yeah. But I think, okay, I wanna, conquer myself. Perhaps it's what I wanna do, under my conscience. That's why I wrote, I started this whole project. So I trained with my coach, and then I really want to conquer that.
Do you feel more comfortable diving now?
No, I will never ever again. No. because for shooting, we have to learn another thing, which is called free diving. Is that you only have one breath, and then you have to go down the water for just only one breath.
Mm. That sounds terrifying.
It's very terrifying. You have to last in the water for at least 2 minutes or 3 minutes.
Wow. I love that scene because it also feels like Nina is terrified to, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but she's afraid to dive into this thing that she's repressing, right? Like she's afraid to sort of excavate this emotion. And so for me, that sort of mirrored the act of diving and going underwater.
Mm.
Um, I was curious about what it is like to act like you're acting. To sort of to play an actress must be such a different experience, and especially when you're reading this monologue that's repeated over and over, that you read with such intensity, and it's so beautiful. Could you talk more about that monologue and just what it's like to act like you're acting?
Oh, well, it's pretty hard to act that I'm a bad actor or not a bad actor. It's a new actor that, I don't know how to, act properly on set. So I indeed need to, look at lots of my previous tapes or, or try to, Google bad acting on Google. I'm kidding. I'm just, it need time to find the very fresh of me. Yeah. And about the monologues, it's something that I think it might be interesting and fun. Actually, the monologues are very simple ones, right? And they're the very typical stereotyped that, very simple ones. You might find them on soap opera TV shows or, right? I love you, I hate you, please don't leave me, this
Yeah.
kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are cliche. But while I was writing the lines or building, the film in the film, I was kind of like, you just want to be a little bit sarcastic about some artistic films.
Yeah.
Or I want to say the most interesting part for a very interesting artistic film is that sometimes for those cliche lines, but if you are directed by the very talented director, it can be a masterpiece.
Mm.
Right?
Yeah.
But sometimes they are just soap opera lines. Yeah, and so there's something really interesting for me to watch a very like avant-garde film cinema, with these kind of lines. And in the film went to Cannes.
Oh,
And then so
yeah.
you're right. So sometimes maybe critics or people or normal people or we would say, oh, I don't understand. I don't understand what that film is about. And sometimes, there is really a bad film being selected in the Cannes, so.
It happens. I've
So
seen
I just want to write something very, cliche, stupid, or something very simple, but, to let audience to imagine, oh, what kind of film that, spy film that is, being selected in Cannes.
Yeah. Why did you choose to make it a 60s spy film?
It was just, it just came well, it's just by accident.
It's a very
Uh,
iconic genre. It's also a very sexist genre a lot of the time, right? Like there are some references, I think, to 007. One of the guys in the chat at the beginning is named 007, and that made me think about
oh
how,
yeah,
these
yeah,
60s
yeah.
spy films are some of these 60s spy films are some of the worst perpetrators of these myths
Oh
about female pleasure, right? Like,
yeah,
could you talk more about that? I mean, I know it's the director has a line that suggests that he thinks that women who are sexually assaulted actually feel pleasure, because at one point he's directing her in the sex scene and he says, she doesn't want to do this, but her body doesn't lie, she feels pleasure. And this is such a harmful myth that so many films perpetuate, including old James Bond films. Why did you highlight that myth in your film?
you mean the film in the film?
Yes.
Well, I think it's just what you just like what you were saying, just like the audience to discuss, to have more feelings about what about this kind of situation, and then to talk about that. I think chatting, talking about this kind of stuff, could make people to have more, to be more aware of the situation nowadays, and then to adjust something to heading for the right decision, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a film that demands conversation because it raises so many questions and there are so many mysteries that afterwards you have to talk about it. So I think it's perfect for that because it's going to force people to think about these things that are really hard to think about. Um, I I kept thinking that I noticed sort of references to other films. I thought maybe I was seeing The Shining or a little bit of David Lynch or Black Swan. Am I imagining those, or were there films that inspired you with the style and the storytelling?
Yeah. I think you're right. Well, I think I mentioned that, Greta Gerwig, she started to write something, that inspired me to think, oh, maybe I can write. And then, and then while I was writing, oh yeah, and then Whiplash is also a film that, gave me this concept of, after I watched that film, I have this idea of anyone in your life who is giving you pleasure can be the devil in the film, right? That's the idea after I watched Whiplash, because the bad teacher is the devil, is the evil, is a bad guy in the film, like ghost.
Mm.
So it's a horror genre concept. So then I was thinking, okay, who gave me treasure? Who made me feel so, scared? Perhaps my mom, or yeah. And then I thought of, okay, yeah, it's kind of like, abusive stuff, from director or producer to an actor, I can use this kind of concept. And also, while I was writing, I think about, of course, like Mulholland Drive, and Nocturnal Animals.
Oh, love Nocturnal Animals. Yeah.
Yeah. I love the concept of she reading the book and then pop the next minute, the editing, pops to another world,
Yes. Yeah.
like
Well,
that.
I wanted to ask you about that too, because you seem to play with time a lot in this film. Like something that you think happened earlier comes back later, and it circles back on itself. And then there are scenes that play more than once in different ways, like of course, the climactic scene in the hotel room. You see it once with the other girl present, and then you see it again without her. Can you talk
Mm-hmm.
more about the reasonings for that?
Okay, this whole film is built on Nina's perspective. It's her world, and her world is, miserable, is messed up. She cannot tell which is true, which is not, which is surreal. So she's living in the real life, but she was haunted by what happened that night in the hotel room. And, according to the PTSD symptoms, for a traumatized person, perhaps that night, what happened in the hotel room, everything she sees, everything she smells, everything she hears, every single word she hears would haunted her again and again in her life. That's why those traumatized people need psychiatrists or therapists for 15 years. I was so curious about why so long. It took so long for them to get out. For normal people, for lucky people, we don't have PTSDs. We would never understand that kind of feelings. It's a messed up in the head. Mm-hmm. It's like, I think the very simple example for everybody to understand is, heartbroken love affair. If you break up with a boyfriend and then you see a cup and then, he used that cup to have a latte, and you will immediately, jump to the scene while you were with him, right? That's a slice PTSD. You weren't there. You were with him while you were together. And then, you don't know why. You were just walking at home, drinking some tea, and then suddenly you were with him again. So it's something, messed up in the head. So that's why after the night she was raped or traumatized in the room, she started to, have imaginations about another girl who's number 3. She wants to, kill her and haunted her. And then she made up a lot of another story about that night. There are lots of girls, auditioning, not just her. So the other thing was made up like dream for Nina, but the reality is the last scene where she was alone with the producer. That's a real situation. What happened that night, but she just didn't want to admit it.
Yeah, by placing this other woman sort of between her and the memory, it makes it a little bit easier, maybe, right?
Yeah, so it's like girl number 3 is her guilt, who did it that night. But Nina, and she split to 2 person that, Nina didn't do it. It's this girl number 3 did it. And then, and so, the dumplings, the dogs, the spoiling water on the first thing you see in the movie, that's what Nina sees, because those items are from the night in the hotel room. Right. The producer is using the pot to have a tea, and then he's eating dumplings, and then dog barkings. Perhaps in real life, those food are not dumplings.
Mm. Yeah. I was curious, our audience is mostly watching in the United States, and is there anything that we might miss if we're not familiar with Taiwanese culture or Taiwanese cinema?
I think audience from all over the world can understand this film, or I couldn't say that. I just said, I think audience probably would be confused if they don't know the concept of this film. Mm-hmm. And they would, feel confused about, is a dog dead or not?
That's a tricky one.
Yeah, that's a tricky one.
Yeah.
Well, but it's not very important, because if you know the concept that, Nina doesn't know either. Right. She in the nightmare, the dog was dead, but the next moment, the dog is not dead. So we don't know, because she is messed up in her head. Yeah. Mm. And then, but there is one religion ritual stuff, like, the giant monster or god-like creatures.
Yeah. The procession, right.
Procession. Those were characters from our religion, more like Buddhism stuff. It's like they are they are kind of like, they have the eyes to capture evil spirits.
Oh.
Yeah, that's why. And they always, they sometimes would have this kind of ritual parade on the countryside or on the road, you know, just for routine ritual stuff.
Mm.
But that day they made Nina, because Nina was, you know, have an evil spirit inside or something like that. That's why one of the god, you know, he recognized that evil and wanted to, you know, yell that evil and then let the evil get out from her body.
Wow. Oh, cool. I'm so glad that I know that now. That's so interesting.
But this kind of like stuff, you know, South America have this kind of like religious ritual stuff.
Mm-hmm. So we're running short on time, but I just think this is such a stunning achievement and so brave and so beautiful. And I'm really curious to know what you're working on now and what you're going to do next.
Well, I think my priority is still like acting.
Mm.
So, and I'm willing to work with people from all over the world. But if I have time, I'm writing 2 scripts now. And one is about this COVID situation story.
Mm.
And another one is a story in Taiwan. So hopefully I can finish those scripts and then have a new film too. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I can't wait to see them. Ke-Xi, thank you so much for speaking with me today. I really can't tell you how much I love your film. And I'm just so happy that we got to have it in our festival. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much for inviting me and for inviting this film. Yeah, I hope you enjoy the film.
Thank you. Bye-bye.